Alright, what's up YouTube? It has been such a long time since I made a video. There's been a lot of stuff, I've been busy, but that's besides the point. I know I keep saying this stuff like I'm gonna make more videos, but this past month has been super busy because of moving out of Boston and then like being at home and like finding time to do all this stuff with like applying to jobs and like all that kind of stuff. I've been wanting to do this video, like I've had this idea in my head for a little bit. Now I'm finally doing it. So I hope you guys like this video. It's gonna be like more of like a review kind of thing, but I like doing these ones just to help you guys decide on like buying certain items for your cameras and stuff like that, just because I want to give you like my experience and show you what I've done with whatever the thing is, and then show you what you can do as well. So for today's video, I'm going to be reviewing the Tamron 28 to 200 lens. This is a 2.8 to 5.6. This is a decent lens. It's not like amazing by any means, but it gets the job done. And I first got this because I needed a new zoom lens for shooting sports, and I needed one to at least get to 200. On my old camera, I had a 70 to 300 lens, which was great. And I've been missing this piece to my kit for a while. Like I said, I needed this one to shoot sports, and that's what I've been doing with this. Only sports. It's not sharp enough really for portraits or anything like that, like I used my other zoom lens for, because it was sharp. There are like some issues with it not being sharp enough for like some images, or I'm standing on the other side of the field photographing like the opposite side. It's really hard to like get a good picture because the bokeh isn't that great, because I'm shooting at 5.6, so everything in the background is still like in focus. When I do get shots of like players on the side that I'm shooting on, they're really nice, and there's like a good amount of bokeh that makes the shot look good still, like because the depth of field is better. So I want to get into this and show you guys some examples of photos that I've gotten with this lens. I have done night, so I'll show you those as well. Night is difficult with this lens, just because it's a 2.8 to 5.6. So when I need that focal length to be at 200, it takes away a lot from my lighting that I need in the camera, which then I have to bump up the ISO, makes the image a little more grainy. I'll show you those ones and show you how you can like manage it. So let's get into the video now. All right guys, what's up? So this is the first photo that I'm going to show you. I'm going to go through a couple night photos and then a couple of daytime photos, all with like the instances that I was talking about, with like shooting far from the players and then shooting close to the players, and then some tricks and stuff that I've used to get better photos in the night with this lens. So this first one was shot the ISO at 2500, and then the shutter speed was 1/250. And so the thing that I do on the Sony with this lens is I sometimes will crop in and make it like a crop sensor, and that will give the lens like an extra little bit of focal length, like probably like 60 millimeters, something like that. But so this one I did not use that for, but as you can see in this photo, the shutter speed is a little slow, as you can see some motion blur. But what I like to do with this, and like I need to do this just to get light, and so the photo isn't too grainy, so I don't have to push the ISO too much, I just will do like it's like a long shutter, so it'll show the players moving, and I kind of like that effect in some of the photos. And for this one, it worked well because the player was dribbling forward at a pretty fast speed, so just holding on the shutter and capturing those photos, I got this one, and the lighting is good and it's not too grainy or anything like that, so it was like a successful photo. Okay, so for the next one, this one was also shot at 2500, 1/250, and this one again was not cropped in. This one is a little bit zoomed out, so now the aperture is 4.5 instead of 5.6. And then as you can see in this one, like luckily there's not too much distraction in the background, so it doesn't really draw your eye away from the player, what's happening. So this is again another instance, shooting at a slower shutter speed, but since the player wasn't moving that much, it worked out well, and I was able to capture a good photo. And that's like something that I look forward to when I have to shoot with a slower shutter speed. It's like making photos that still look cool, but with the players like not moving too much, so I don't have to bump the ISO and make a faster shutter speed, stuff like that. Okay, so for this next one, this one is a cropped in image. So when you crop in on the A7 III, it lessens the resolution of the photo, and it makes it, I believe it's 12 megapixels instead of 24. Might be a little bit lower, but this one is one of those cropped in images, and the focal length, so I zoomed all the way out and then you punch it in even more, so it's probably around like 260 millimeters. And this one is also at 1/400 for the shutter speed, same ISO 2500, but as you can see, you still get a little bit of motion blur in the ball, which is fine for me. I don't really care about that too much because the ball is always going to be moving. But as you can see, it slowed down the player nicely, and you get a nice picture with like a very zoomed in lens, even though like I was on the side. This is closer to the middle of the field, but you can still see the player nicely. It's not too grainy, it's not too hard to look at. It's still a good photo that I was able to make. And that is it for the night photos. Now we'll get into the day photos. So this next one, this one was also punched in on the A7 III. So again, my lens is zoomed all the way out to 200 millimeters, and then it's punched in again with that crop sensor mode on the A7. So this one, the player was like right in front of me, so I'm shooting at 5.6, and you can see the background blur is really great because the player is so close to me. So it's another nice photo where this lens can show what it can do, like when you're nice and close to the subject, and the aperture doesn't really matter because you're going to get that background blur no matter what. It might not be as much as like a 2.8 lens, obviously, but it's still good, and you can tell right here. Okay, so for this next one, player's like in the middle of the field and I'm standing on the right side, so it's pretty far away, and you can see like how the background blur in the background isn't too much, but it's not like really distracting. I have another example that I'll show you in a sec where the player's a little bit farther and you can see how the background could be very distracting. But for this one, I was shooting with an ND filter on, so my ISO was at 800. And this is again another cropped in image. So the resolution of the photo is a little bit smaller, and that also is like the other thing with the crop sensor function on the A7, because I'm not blowing these images up, like putting them on posters or printing them out or anything. It doesn't really matter to me. These are just going on like Instagram and stuff like that, so it's not really a problem. But yeah, this is another example just in the middle of the field. My ISO had to be a little bit higher because I had an ND on, but it's still a good photo with a lot of detail in it, and you can see like the background blur, how that starts to like work with shooting at 5.6, like with the player in the middle of the field. Okay, so this next one is the other image that I was talking about with the player like a lot farther away, like almost all the way on the other side of the field. So you can see the background is blurred out, but this is something that I did in Lightroom. I just used a brush tool to just brush the background, and then I lowered the sharpness all the way down and lowered the texture and the clarity a little bit as well. It doesn't look too great. I was just like playing around to see like how I can do this if I really need to, but it kind of works, as you can tell, but it doesn't look like the camera did it to me. I mean, I did it, but I don't know what you guys think, but to me it doesn't really look like the camera did it. But this, before I blurred it out, was very like the background was very distracting with all the poles and the words and the other people in the background. You could really see like everything was still super clear, and this is like another cropped in image with the lens shooting at 5.6. So that's just one thing, like I was talking about in the beginning of this video, where it gets a little bit hard to shoot good photos super far away from the lens. But with some tricks on Lightroom and Photoshop and stuff, you can fix that and make it look as normal as possible. And then this is the last one, another image of the player close to my camera. And this one, again, this one was shot at 1000 ISO actually, and then 1/640 for the shutter speed. And this is not a cropped in image, so the resolution is a little bit higher. It's a good photo, freezing the action. 640 is like 640 to 800 is where I generally like to shoot at, just because that's the best for me when I'm shooting soccer. And like it slows down everything enough where it still looks good without like motion blur or anything like that. Sometimes the ball is moving way too fast for that, but the players usually aren't, and it works out. So those were all the photos, guys. I appreciate you watching the video, and I do have some new gear that I've been using. Like I've got a new Pro Mist filter. I've got a lens adapter for one of my film cameras. If you guys want to see reviews for that too, let me know, and I'll go out and grab some photos with it. Those ones would most likely be portrait. If you guys want to see those, just let me know in the comments, and I can get those going for you guys, because I want to get out and use them. And if you haven't used those things before, like a lens adapter or a Pro Mist filter, I'd love to show you how they work and show you what I can do and then what you can do as well. So again, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe on the video, and I will see you guys on the next one.